What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. So I woke up this morning, I'm on YouTube and I'm watching like old wrestling matches. The Rock and Stone Cold. Stone Cold and The Undertaker. Stone Cold and Triple H. The Rock versus the Dudley Boys in a handicap match. Excuse me. I was just on a roll, right? And all I could think about was, damn, man. Professional wrestling was like, it was extremely cool to watch wrestling at a point where like grown men were tuning in for Monday Night Raw and Thursday Smackdown, right? And I just remember like how much people were just raving about wrestling. Like I'm talking about wrestling was like you had wrestlers on daytime television. The Rock was getting interviewed, Bret Hart, all of that. Like it was real, the fanfare around it was crazy. The Rock was hosting Saturday Night Live. Triple H was on there. You had Stone Cold getting interviewed here. The Rock was transitioning to movies. He became this ultra movie star. Hulk Hogan became a movie star and all of that, right? And I'm wondering what killed professional wrestling? What took it down to where the excitement around it? Now, The Rock came back. It was excitement around the Cody Rhodes, The Rock, Roman Reigns, the Bloodline story for sure. But it was like outside of that storyline, I don't think like this is the most people that was the most people had been excited for wrestling in years. Like when the Attitude Era was around, shit, man, listen. You would see grown men pissed that they missed Monday Night Raw. Grown men really flickering back and forth between Monday Night Football and Monday Night Raw for real. That was a real thing. And I think what killed professional wrestling, what took it down, I believe social media helped with that as well. A lot of that. Social media, social media allows you to see the personal life of these wrestlers. You see their families, their daughters, their brothers, their sisters, their mothers. It helps to humanize them in a way that I don't think a lot of wrestling fans wanted. We didn't want Undertaker to be humanized. Like, we didn't really care about the humanization of The Rock outside, I guess, doing charity work and all that, doing stuff for the troops. We didn't care about the humanization of Stone Cold Steve Austin. We for all we care, we loved the fact that he was in our eyes, he was a beer drinking, ass whooping machine. The Rock, full of catchphrases, he was swaggy, he had the swagger, he was charismatic, he was talking crazy, and he was whooping ass. Undertaker was a dude we thought really was from Death Valley, and we thought he was one of the devil's descendants, right? And people loved it and bought into it. Kane, we thought he was really a big red machine, a monster, a brute with no personality that would come out and raise hell, literally and physically, right? And when social media comes around, we get access to people's lives and their kids and all of that. Just imagine, because we really thought Undertaker, I'm going to speak for most wrestling fans, especially my age. I'm 31. During my time, I thought The Undertaker and Kane were really, really brothers. Can you imagine The Undertaker posting a picture on Instagram with like a few of his brothers or something, if he has brothers, right? And he says, me and all my brothers, and you don't see Kane in the picture? You would be devastated. Like, what the fuck? Why is Kane not in this picture if you saying all of your brothers? What is going on, right? If we didn't think, I'm trying to think, if we saw on social media The Rock and Triple H taking pictures with the troops together, smiling and The Rock and them together, it would have boggled our minds. Like, huh? The more popular wrestling became, like, and sometimes the lines would get blurred to where Vince and them went on TV and admitted that the outcomes of the matches were predetermined. When for a while, people didn't, it wasn't a thing that people really discussed, you know? But I think social media and how big wrestling got, when wrestlers started to have crossover appeal, you know what? I'm not just gonna say it's social media. Wrestlers having crossover appeal had them on talk shows and TV shows and Howard Stern and all of that, and people asking them, is wrestling fake? You know, how is it? Asking them the insights of the business. And that's when Vince was, I guess, giving those guys the suggestion to say, hey, the outcomes are predetermined, but those hits are real. Those chair shots are real. Guys are really bleeding in the ring. Guys are really diving into chairs and diving into tables, etc. Like, it kind of took the mystique away in a way, right? again, man, we really thought these dudes. I thought if the Undertaker and Triple H saw each other in the grocery store, they was gonna fight. I thought if The Rock ran into Booker T in the middle of the invasion storyline, if The Rock ran into Stone Cold or Booker T in goddamn Walmart, he was gonna whoop their ass in the middle of the aisle, and the security was gonna have to get involved. That's how I looked at wrestling at the time, because it was just that galvanizing, man. And I think, yeah, like social media took away some of that mystique, because now you see the personal lives of these guys, and you kind of look at them like, yo, maybe he's not this brute machine that I thought he was. Maybe he is not. Hey, we found out. I mean, we found out later that Undertaker and Kane really were not brothers. It killed kayfabe, and kayfabe at the end of like wrestling becoming wrestlers having crossover appeal, and social media killed kayfabe. Kayfabe is like the fictional wrestling world, like things that happen in the fictional wrestling world. It's like fictionalized storylines. So I'm really thinking that I'm trying to think, Edge and Christian are really brothers, and they not, right? The Hardy Boys was brothers, but we really thinking Bubba Ray and Devon them was half brothers or something, and it's really not a thing. And for fans, it's like it takes some of that away. I also believe that the storylines and the gimmicks, I don't know, man, those gimmicks, they can't be replicated. Like The Rock, Stone Cold, Undertaker, some of that stuff is hard to replicate now. I'm trying to think of other gimmicks that went over. I thought the Gangrel gimmick was cool, but he was just not a great wrestler. Yeah, so like the charisma of a lot of those wrestlers, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, these guys had charisma. They oozed it. And it made the product, the wrestling product, something that people just ate up. And now you do have wrestlers with charisma, a lot of bravado. I like Trick Williams, man. He ain't even on the main roster yet from what I understand, but he's dope. I like a lot of some stuff I'm seeing. I don't watch wrestling like I used to, right? I was watching it because The Rock was back, and, you know, the bloodline angle and all that was popping. But, you know, a lot of the wrestlers don't have the charisma that their predecessors had. And I think sometimes the storyline and the writing isn't as great as it used to be, even though I think it's making a comeback for sure. But yeah, I think it was a lot of things that went into, like the storylines went down, the characters were not as in depth. There wasn't a lot of substance to some of the characters, like the backstory of Kane and Undertaker. When you write that, right? You remember when was it No Way Out? The Rock, was it No Way Out? The Rock and Stone Cold was getting ready to have a match. And Jim Ross, JR is in the middle, and he's interviewing Stone Cold on one side, The Rock on another side, and they're in the locker room, and they're doing it's like a press conference before a championship title fight in boxing. And guys are talking about, you know, The Rock talking about he want more than anything in the world to just whoop Stone Cold and be WWF champion. Stone Cold saying it means everything in the world to him more than breathing itself to be WWF champion. Like, that shit felt real. It felt authentic, and it felt just like you really felt like them guys really, and I believe some of it is true. There really was a fight for the top spot in wrestling, and Stone Cold, you know, had been the top guy for a minute, but he knew that The Rock was right there as the man. And I feel like some people don't feel like it's true. I feel like The Rock surpassed Stone Cold's popularity, in my opinion. Some people don't think it's true. Austin doesn't believe. He said The Rock came very close, but he says he didn't think he quite overtook him, but I believe he did. And you saw the real heat that they had behind trying to be the top guy spill over into that, like, that conversation between the two, like a mini press conference. Like, I don't know, man. Stuff like that, man. It's just golden TV, man. And it's cinema, as they say, right? The Rock versus Hulk Hogan. The build up for that, and the NWO being introduced, and The Rock and Stone Cold fighting with the NWO. And, you know, again, it was just like all these different type of wrestlers that came around. Rob Van Dam from ECW, you had John Cena emerging, you had Chris Jericho, you had yeah, man, it just it felt real, man, and it made me. I'm getting the wrestling games. I'm buying the wrestling games when I was a game. I'm back a game head now, but I stopped being a game head for a large chunk large portion of my life because I got more interested in girls and sports and all of that, right? But yeah, it's hard to to revitalize that. Everything just felt like, yo, like I remember watching Thursday Smackdowns, and they would have like main events where, like on a Thursday night, you would have The Rock versus Stone Cold. You had a Rock versus Chris Jericho, like something that would take place on a pay-per-view normally. You would have like The Rock and Stone Cold versus Undertaker and Kane, or Triple H and Stone Cold versus The Rock and Jericho, or The Rock and Mankind, The Rock and Sock Connection versus DX and D-Generation X, man, like Road Dogg, Jesse James, you had China, you had Triple H, you had X-Pac with the Bronco Buster, and everybody doing suck it. You know how many kids got suspended from school for that? Like when I was in like first, second grade, kindergarten, third grade, kids doing that sucking, and people was getting suspended left and right, getting in trouble, getting sent to the principal office because they had kids wanting to do that, man. And again, y'all, I was every Monday and Thursday, I was so excited to see what was going to happen next. My favorite was The Rock. I mean, really, because his skin tone looked like me. And he had an aura I felt, represented, even though I didn't know he was half Samoan at the time. I just seen the dark skin, and I'm looking like, oh, he black, which he's a half black man, right? So, yeah, and then I seen the bravado, the swagger, the chains, and the, you know what I mean? And yeah, he just oozed charisma. And I think a lot of guys, you got some wrestlers that do that, but it's a lot that are missing that portion of being a top guy in wrestling, man. So yeah, I connected to the wrestling business and the storylines that were put out when Edge and Kurt Angle had the match, and whoever would have to shade their hair bald. You had when Undertaker pushed Mankind off the top of the steel cage. Big Show and when Brock Lesnar first came around, and when the ring broke after the F5. Was it the F5 or was it damn, what was it that broke the ring? Was it the F5? I think I'm trying to remember. And Brock's introduction to wrestling, and The Rock putting people over. The Rock even putting over Hurricane, and The Rock versus Goldberg, and The Rock versus Brock Lesnar, and The Rock. It was just endless matches, man. And The Rock's Hollywood heel persona, the Hollywood Rock persona. It just, certain stuff was like that, man. It just, you can't. Some of that shit, man, is just like, yo, these dudes had it in them. Rey Mysterio Jr. It's, I don't know, man. I really couldn't explain it. A lot of people have to watch the Attitude Era and things that took place during that time period, and the pops that the crowd would give to these wrestlers, man. It wasn't just The Rock and Stone Cold getting cheered for heavily. It was like you had mid-carders like Scotty 2 Hotty and Grandmaster Sexay and the Dudley Boys and what's my man name? The Hollies, Hardcore Holly and Crash Holly and Road Dogg and the Godfather. Mid-carders are getting celebrated, man. And it's not like that today, man. Machiavelli Mills TV. Peace.